Hello. Today I'm going to walk through the creation of a retrospective looper in Ableton and show how it works with a simple example where there's just only one looper active. To get started, I'll give a demonstration of how this works, and let me explain too. There's a retrospective looper is running all the time, listening. It's essentially a looper that's always an overdub. So it's listening all the time. It only begins actively looping something you've played after you play it. So you play a phrase, say it's 4 bars, in this case because our looper is configured for 4 bars. You play as long as you want. Once you've played 4 bars that you like, you just press loop, and it will grab the last 4 bars that you played, and start looping that. Let me show you what I mean by this. So use this to clear. Now the looper's running, and I'll use my guitar. Simple example. But now let me overdub something. So if you can see, I'm not punching in. I'm only pressing the loop button once, and it's after I played. So let me try noodling over this and make some mistakes on purpose and show you what I mean. Yeah, to give some idea. So let's clear this out. So what's happening behind the scenes here is a pair of loopers inside of an effect rack. There's looper A, which is a standard Ableton looper plugin, and looper B, same thing. These two are having their state controlled via these two dummy clips. This 4-bar loop A has automations, so you can see in the envelopes. It has a few automations applied, so when you trigger this loop, it's changing the state of the looper. And it's doing it in such a way that only one of them is active at a time. You can see right now they're both muted here. This speaker is off. That's because the clear loops dummy clip sets them into a clear state, so it mutes them and resets them. This 4-bar loop A triggers the first looper, so you can see it's in overdub, it's listening, but it's not active. It's muted right here, and the feedback is at 0, so it's not going to repeat anything that's played into it. It's just going to play it once. That changes when I click this. Play it once. That changes when I click this. Play it once. See, that changes when I click this. Play it once. And then it switches back into record mode and back into overdub. So the best way to show how this works is to just step through the process of creating a fresh looper. It's a combination of these 2 tracks, by the way. So this contains the dummy clips, and this is the feedback track, which feeds audio from this back into itself, so you can overdub on top of the loop over and over again. So first step, create a new audio track. Move this over here. We'll call this loop 2. And one more track for the feedback. Okay. On this track, we'll need a looper device. Let's do a looper. We'll group that, Command G, and bring another looper in. Cool. Looper A. Oops. Looper B. And we'll name them here as well. This This helps when you're dealing with the clip automation and the envelopes to have everything labeled. So just take the time to label that ahead of time. Cool. So then we will set a few parameters on these loopers that we won't automate. So in this case, we're going to say record 4 bars, then overdub. Same. 4 bars, overdub on B. And that will also set song control to none, and we'll set tempo control to follow. We'll set input output never. The reason for these things, I think 4 bars is fairly obvious. We want to create a 4-bar looper, for example. Song control, we don't want this looper itself to be changing the transport state, so we'll just set it to none. It's going to just follow whether or not the transport's running. Tempo control, we'll have it follow the song tempo, so you can change tempo and it'll change the pitch of the loopers, but we won't have it set the song tempo. Since it's a retrospective looper, yeah, it would be challenging for that to set the song tempo after you've already played. More of a thing for a punch-in out looper. And then over here we'll set input output never, because that helps avoid some doubling, because we'll be monitoring from our input channel. So say the guitar or my microphone is coming in this input channel. Our audio then goes from input to the loop channel, and we don't want to have our audition that we're seeing moving this meter here also being output on this channel at the same time. So we set this to never, which means that the looper will only output when it's playing. It won't be outputting all the time. So that's the reasoning for those settings, and next step will be to create the clip automation. So I use a silent clip. It's called Silent, and it comes with Ableton. Sorry, here, Silent. What am I? Oh, SIL. Silent. So we just drag this in to here. Turn on warp and just set the length here, something like this. Make sure it triggers. Yeah. Cool. Now we have envelopes. So actually, let's name this. We'll call this 4-bar loop A. And so this is going to be the dummy clip that automates the state that activates looper A. So everything in here is focused around making this looper active and the loop that you can hear. So 4-bar loop A. We'll go to the envelopes, go to looper A, and we're going to automate 2 things. State for the active loop. So loop A is going to be active with this dummy clip. The state will be play, because we want the loop to be playing. We don't want it to be overdubbing or recording. We want it to be in play, so it's just statically playing the same thing over and over again. The other looper will be in overdub, so that gives you the ability to apply your overdubs. So we just want that in play, and we want feedback set to 100, which means that it'll keep playing back at the same level. Then we also want to control the mixer for looper A. So that would be this right here. We're going to automate this. That is mixer, so audio effect rack, looper A, mixer, speaker on. And then with this clip, we'll also be automating the other looper, putting it into a muted state where it's in overdub. So we come here, looper B, set the state to overdub, set the feedback down to 0, and set the mixer speaker off. And what this should do when we press it now is we should see this turn off. We should see this also start running. Yeah, there you go. So there's one more step. Well, there's actually a couple more steps, but yeah, let's go ahead and create the next sort of inverse of this. Again, we'll start with silent. Bring that in. We'll call this 4-bar loop B. Let's get the spacing lined up. And we'll do the same thing. We're on the same track, obviously, so same devices are there, but we're going to turn on warp, set that up so that this triggers. Then we will go to envelope right here, set loop array, feedback, sorry, loop array, feedback. So yeah, to just as a reminder, so this is 4-bar loop B, so we're activating loop B. So looper A, in this case, 0. State for looper A is going to be overdub. Looper A will be muted, so speaker off. Looper B, feedback 100. State, play. Mixer, speaker on. Right, so these should effectively juggle back and forth. And actually, while we're at this, let's change the quantize for these clips to none, because the looper itself is quantized. I'll show you. Yeah, the looper has quantize settings itself right here, so it follows the global quantization. So we can submit commands to it instantly, and it'll follow the quantize there. That's set right here. So let's see. A active, B active. See this? You can see this changing back and forth, kind of juggling back and forth. Great. So that's our overdub, sort of initial, I guess our constant overdub feature. What we need next is a clip that will initialize the loop. So kind of get it, it'll erase it, and also it'll start it. It'll get it into the initial state, which is the recording. So again, start with silent. And we'll call this initialize loop. Come into our automation, turn on warp. We'll set the quantize for this one to something a bit higher, maybe 2 bars. So you have to hold it down in order to initialize. It's a destructive action, it's erasing the loop, it's recording over it. So make it so you have to hold the clip down to make sure that's intentional. Alright, set this to make sure that triggers. Cool. And come through, go to envelope, and we're doing the same thing. We're going to automate both of these and put them both in a muted recording state. So looper A, state, record, feedback, 0, mixer, speaker, off. Looper B, state, record, feedback, 0, mixer, speaker, off. So we come back here, we press and hold this. Now we're both muted and recording. Um, and you can see it records, then it jumps into overdub. This one's the same. So this initialize is the first thing you'll do. You know, if you open up your set, you first initialize the loop, and that gets the loopers running. Gets everything in the right state. And then now these can alter the state back and forth, allowing you to overdub. The other thing we'll need to do, now that we have all of this configured, we need to actually route audio in the correct way for it to start looping something, to have something to loop. So on our loop track here, loop 2, the audio is going to come from this input channel. This is an output of my mixer, so it has my guitar and my microphone coming in to the Ableton session. So audio from, in this case, input. So we'll just say audio from input. Bring the track in so that we can hear it as the looper is running, and then send the audio to main. That's fine. Now on our feedback channel, we're going to put this channel in, audio from loop 2, so this, audio 2, loop 2, track in. And that's that. So now this channel has a permanent feedback loop, which is useful once you have a looper running, because you have these two loopers. One's always in overdub. So this allows you to play in new material on the input, which this hears, the looper hears in overdub, and also feed back the existing loop. Yeah, in a way that these clips, they can control it. So let's try looping something now. Let's initialize first. Okay, I'll get the guitar. All right. So now looper A is active, and looper B is listening. It's listening to what we're hearing right now. It's also hearing the microphone I'm talking through, and it'll hear guitar overdubs. So let's add a layer there, and I'll press the looper B dummy clip now. I can overdub again, and what I need to do is juggle back to the top looper A. So let's use the top clip slot there, 4-bar loop A, and I'll add another overdub. To looper B. Yeah. So this works great, but it's tedious to have to keep juggling back and forth between these two clips. It would be really nice to have a single button that just looped, and whenever you played something you want to loop, it would automatically overdub that. So we can do that using ClyphX, which is an automation. Let me put my guitar down. Yeah, so we can do that using ClyphX, which is an automation script that works as a control surface script, and it's free. And I think I mentioned there's a video explaining how to set that up, so I will put a link to that. But what you do for ClyphX is create again another dummy clip. We'll use this. I'll do the same thing, warp it, make sure it triggers. Like so. Yep. Cool. So we'll rename this. With ClyphX clips, you need to give it a name inside the parentheses. It's kind of like the name of the command. It's not actually the command, it's just the identifier. So we'll call this 4bar. And then we'll use what's called pattern sequence. PSEQ. And so this sequences the next commands that you give it. So I'm going to say play, and I'm going to say 4, which means play clip slot 4, which is, you can see down here, that's slot 4. Play 4, and the next command will be play 5, right? So what this should do is juggle for us. You press it once, it plays 4, you press it again, it plays 5, you press it again, it plays 4, and on and on. Once we initialize the loop, and we know it's in the recording state, then we can press this. We need to wait the 4 bars for the looper to actually record something to play back, but once that's done, we can press this, and it will start one of the loops. So let's try that. I'll get the guitar. Anyway, that's enough noodling. Yeah, so that's in a nutshell the looper. That's a single retrospective looper using this technique. And what I've done in my looper template is stack tons of these devices on top of each other